Hello again, Phil.
Hey Jules, how are you, man?
Very good, thank you. So I've got a load of questions for you from other Level 42 fans and fans of your own, basically from around different parts of the world. I'm going to start with going back right to the beginning. I know that Mark's documented his first drum set. He went off after school to Newport, came home. His dad said, "Where you been?" His dad put him in the car and spent £10 on his first ever drum set. First of all, did you ever play on that particular drum set?
No, I don't think so. I think I did. By the time I met Mark, he had like a proper kit. He was.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I remember. My first kit was like an Olympic silver sparkle kit. It was like it was £60 in a
Was
shop
it?
in Newport, and I'd been
Oh,
pestering
Newport
my
as
mum.
well. Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, that was a place where they had music shops, and I mean, there's
Uh-huh.
Ryde and Newport, the two bigger towns on the island. So there was a second-hand shop in Newport that sold second-hand instruments. And my mum, who was a bit skint at the time, to be honest, I'd been pestering her for a year. Finally got 60 quid together, and then went and got me this kit, and it was amazing, just to have a silver spot. Oh, the ecstasy of like owning a kit and trying to figure it out. And I had three drum lessons with this fantastic drummer, Derek Hogg, who sadly only recently passed on as well, and I hadn't seen him because he left. What happened? I had three lessons with him. The first lesson he said, "I think you should do this." The second one he showed me a couple of rudiments. The third one he showed me some more rudiments and gave me the Buddy Rich book, the snare drum rudiments, and then said goodbye. He's leaving the Isle of Wight at that point. So then I became a self-taught drummer. But like I had his seal of approval that I had something and I should do it, and I was really into it and just completely obsessed. And yeah, I started from that. And it was interesting because that was September when I was 15, and about 2 months later, um, they were filming a film called That'll Be the Day at my school on the Isle of Wight, and at holiday camps. And you had like in that, I don't know if people have seen that film. It was a long time ago now, but it was David Essex, who was a '70s pop star, and you have Ringo Starr was in it, Keith Moon was in it, Billy Fury.
Wow.
It's an amazing document to watch. It's filmed in 1972, and what happened was that my brother was a DJ at the time, and so one night, one school night, all of a sudden this van, somebody knock at the front door. It's about 9:30 at night, and they want somebody turns up and they say we need a kit, we need a drum kit, and it's raining, and this guy puts all my drums in the back of the minivan, and my mum said you can go as well if you want, and they take me down to Shankland Pier where there's a kind of little theatre, and they're having a party, a rap party on Shankland Pier with all this crew and cast, and basically they put my drums on this little stage, in this thing. And Keith Moon comes up and says, "All right, son," and then he proceeds to beat living, 7 bells out of my tiny little kit,
All right.
and playing along to Join Together and all these Who songs, and I was like behind him, watching him through the silly little tinsel that they had on these holiday camp stage,
Yeah,
like fuming because he looked like he was deliberately smashing my drums up. I had
yeah.
no idea people play drum. I had no idea you'd hit drums that hard. I've been playing 2 months,
Mm.
And he kind of killed my kit because all the heads were like this, the sticks were splintered, and his whoever was with him was his minder, gave me a quid, and I think I should have turned on the waterworks. I should have cried, and I might have got a whole big premiere double. I should have gone
Yeah.
up. You can't, and they would have sent me a kit. But basically I stood there like absolutely aghast that he was. I didn't care anymore that it was Keith Moon. All I knew that he was destroying my drums. So it
Two
took a
things
while.
about that. Two things about that question. First of all, I meant to propose that on behalf of Edwina Nelson. The second thing is Green Street. And your mum's house, which I have actually been to on a pilgrimage.
Green Lane, Green Lane.
Green Lane, is it? Beg your pardon. Funny enough, I did meet Joy twice, and I must say, what a lovely lady she was
Yeah,
both
she was.
times I met her. Now, because you used the garage as the sound room, didn't you? Near enough.
Well, we were jamming in the house actually.
Oh, in the house,
Um,
right?
and later on, when Level 42 we were getting it together, what we were going to do, we were on the island doing something, and we were in my mum's garage at one point, and then we went down to this club There were two clubs at what used to be Ryde Airport. There was the Barbaloo Club and the Carousel. And my brother, having been a DJ at both these clubs, he
Ah,
said, "Could we set up on the Carousel stage and rehearse?" So what we did, we rehearsed on the Carousel stage for a week, and as a thank you to the club owner, and also as a way of doing a showcase for Polydor, we went and played 2 nights at the Barbaloo Club just across the way, and Polydor came down, and it was that night that we were offered
ah,
that night that they convinced to sign us, because we had a Love Meeting Love had been out, and it was like, it was selling really well, and as a 12 inch all around London, it was like, it just took off that summer.
mm,
So they wanted to see what we were like, and then they offered us a 5 album deal as a result of that.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's now
So yeah,
It's now McDonald's, isn't it?
yeah. McDonald's at a car wash. Yeah.
Yeah.
And where the Carousel was, that's now a big supermarket. So
Is
yeah,
it
so
as
yeah.
well? Oh God! Right. So the first question I've got is actually on behalf of my Havering Funkfuls partner, Colin Sladden, who again you probably met about 30 times back in the day.
Yeah.
When he used to get the fan club letters, and we all got like a sheet of telling us about each member of the band, their date of birth, where they were born, and he noticed that on Boone's it said Isle of Wight, yet yours it said Hong Kong. So how comes the difference?
Well, my mum and my father moved out to Hong Kong uh, after the war, maybe in the late 40s, and they were out there. I think probably very soon after the war they moved out there, and they were out there until I was born. And then, but what my mum did was come back, a couple of years before, was on the Isle of Wight, and Boone was born on the Isle of Wight,
Ah,
and then she went back out to the Far East. They went to Canada, North America, and then they went across the Pacific to Hong Kong, and then to Tokyo. And then my father was a freelance journalist, so he ended up in Tokyo, and then in Hong Kong. My mum was a film critic who worked in when she was in Hong Kong. So I have a brother born in Vancouver, and then
oh,
a sister born in Tokyo,
wow.
and then they're in the Far East, and they go back. Boone's born on the island, and then we go back out. And I'm born in Hong Kong. I remember when I was growing up that Boone was always a little bit upset that he didn't have an exotic birth, like the rest of us growing up, being born in Tokyo and all these things. But then when we came back to England after when I was 6 months old, and then we went to Blackpool, and then when I was about 2 years old, we then went back down. We went down to the Isle of Wight, and that's found that house in Green Lane, and then I grew up there.
Okay, my next question is from Pam Foster, who we just talked about off air.
Yeah.
She actually went to the Riverside Studios for the filming of Hot Water. Now, she remembers you all turning up with makeup, and she actually says Boone looked like he belonged to Duran Duran rather than Level 42. Was this the sort of part of the promotion bandwagon that you didn't like in the end?
Well, firstly, I just want to say to Pam, I'm sorry, so sorry that you are going through all these health problems. I'm really, really sorry to hear that. I really hope you're well, and I hope you get through this.
Yeah, I know she's much better. Thank you.
It's really good to hear, and so wishing you all the best, Pam, and much love. Yeah, no, I mean we're doing a video, so they cake you with makeup for those things. They you want to do Top of the Pops. It doesn't look like you are wearing much video actually on screen, but you're caked in makeup. When you go on TV, it used to be horrible going Top of the Pops. They ended up doing things like blowing hairspray up in the updraft of a hairdresser, a hairdryer, and your hair will be sticking up like this. It's like unbelievable. And then you have to go wash that stuff off. All this dry ice. Coming away from a TV show was like you'd have a shower of this black water, all this dry ice in your hair and all this, the hairspray and makeup. But yeah, it was just. I think we had a little bit of a moment. I think if you look on the cover of World Machine, I think Mark's got some makeup on there. I think we're all kind of going for the pop star thing at a certain
right.
moment.
So it was just the way it went, really.
I think it's just a little bit of an experiment. You're looking at it to see, like, you're just playing with it. Because we had no idea that we would be in that position when we started. So we were just trying to buy some nice clothes. Having being a bit of a vibe. And we did have when it came to like video shoots and things like that. For instance, on The Sun Goes Down, and when we did that year the cover of Standing in Light, you have stylists coming in to help you, So we didn't all end up wearing Levi workwear,
Mm,
on an album cover because we decided to. We talked about it with the stylist. It's the only way to get it done. Otherwise, the band could never make their mind up about these things.
right.
So you have to have help, and hopefully it looks like a band, still.
Okay, my next question's from Sean Reed in Australia, and I'm just going to move now. That the picture up the top there, I brought it with me to the 606 Club. He did
Oh,
that.
nice.
Yeah, he did that himself as part of his uni course. Believe it or not, he's actually
Fantastic.
asked what your hobbies are.
Hobbies. Not sure if I have any right now. I mean, in the pandemic. I mean, the hobby I would is travel. I if I I but I do that for my job as well. What I move around when obviously till the pandemic. I move around. I read. I love movies and stuff like that, and I love going to theatre and art galleries. And so I guess the hobby would be a culture vulture, and that's transportable because if I'm in Vienna, I can go and see like some music or go to the theatre or the fantastic galleries there. Same in Rome, same in
Yeah.
wherever I might end up. So that's my hobby. When I'm home, like I'm surrounded by instruments here. I'm not gonna build a model or anything. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually do have a lot of models upstairs. I shouldn't build it, but no, I don't. I don't suppose. I think moving around and traveling and then having a look at what's going on out there is the hobby. Like
Mm.
you know.
Mario Angeli said, "When you write songs about life experiences, are you hoping people feel better through them?"
I don't know. I mean, that's just it helps me to do it. I just hope that people don't feel so alone if they realize that somebody else is going through something similar. And one of the things you strive for as a songwriter is very, very rare that you actually get there is the idea of insight. So that you're not just writing a song that scans, that has a story, that has a melody, but it maybe has some aspect of the human condition that you're trying to show people what you've learned.
Mm.
This is what I know about it. What do
Right.
you think? I
Yeah.
I, I would I wouldn't want to be like anybody to think for a minute I have all the answers because I certainly don't. Or
No.
like I'm preaching. I might have done one or two preachy songs, but it's just like asking questions and also sharing what I've learned. And if that means something to people, then great.
Mm.
But I have long since passed any kind of conceit of thinking I know what's what about the world.
Darren Hill asks, "What's your most enjoyable level 42 track to play?"
To play, I don't know, a track like World Machine was fun to play. I mean, something like Mr. Pink, early instrumental was
Mm.
mental live. That was always fun. I used to love playing Kansas City Milkman live,
Did you?
because
Right.
there was this relentless middle section, you
Yeah. Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and all this disinformation. I used to be really proud of that. And when we did it at Glastonbury, that was such a moment to you feel like you're saying something, like and you're getting the crowd, you're putting it out there, not just let's groove tonight, it's something
Mm.
actually, and it was a brilliant section. That was always great to play that track. Maybe Kansas City Milkman.
Now that's an interesting track because although I know the answer from a layman, the fact that Mark did a milk round wearing Stetson
Yeah,
and a cowboy hat, it would be easy just to think it's a song about Mark, but it totally isn't, is it?
no, that came from a conversation with my father, who was a freelance journalist, and like I said earlier, and he knew a lot of American journalists. When he was in the Far East, he was number 33 of the Foreign Correspondence Club of Tokyo,
Oh,
or Japan. And well, after the war, it was all these Americans like Walter Cronkite, Edward Murrow, all those really famous American journalists were out there, getting their chops together. And there's a kind of prose style for an American journalist. Instead of they wouldn't say I'm writing for Joe Public, they'd say I'm writing for the Kansas City Milkman.
ah,
I'm, I'm writing in a way that the Kansas City Milkman would understand, like simple,
ah,
so kind of rather than in uncomplicated way. I guess like we might say, we're talking to Joe Public, just a man in the street, and those American journalists would say we're running for the Kansas City movement. So it really
Okay.
got. So that's why there's all this talk of like of how you see the world through the press. Born in this place, you only see so far. It's the idea of like read the papers every word. That's why I was talking about that because of
Right.
my father being a journalist and sort of what do you believe? Do you really believe what they're writing about you? If they're not writing, are they writing the truth?
Uh-huh.
And as we all know, as we get older, most of what we read in the press is
Mm,
far from the truth. It's a lot of rubbish.
mm.
Anyway,
Now, Ray Boyle wants to know your opinion on electric drums.
I'm not a massive fan. I mean, I think they're useful. I did actually play. I did have it. I used to have a Simmons electric drum, electric pads on stage with me,
Ah,
and I'd play. If you look at Wembley live at Wembley, the video, you can see all these pads around me, and I'm making all that doo doo
aha.
sounds, and also sounds in Leaving Me Now in the middle section, a lot of white noise sounds and stuff like that.
Mm,
So yeah, I used to enjoy it. But also, I would have electronics live where I'd have a trigger on the snare doing a clap sound on Something About You to get the extra snare sound. So it's all sorts of stuff like that. World Machine, we used to have a Lindrum to play the percussion part. That was a Wally Badarou creation, but I would have to stamp on the pedal to start it, and play along to it. So there was a bit of electronics, but since I left that situation, I don't think I've ever used electronics live ever since.
okay. Yeah, he's bought I hope I get this right, Elise's Strike Pro trip kit, and he just wanted to know if you've got any tips on actually playing it.
Well, be careful with the. Don't play it too hard because of the hard
Okay.
surface. It can really, like I used to get a lot of wrist problems playing on a D drum back in the day or electronic kit back in the day because
Mm,
the heads are different. But it's good for practice if you can't make much noise with the
mm,
neighbor. You can do things like play grooves and get your timing worked out, and then.
mm,
But it's always tricky going from electronic drum kit to a real kit because
mm. All right,
it's
afterwards.
just a whole different thing. I
Yeah.
remember I used to go to a Frankfurt trade show called Music Messe, and I think I started doing it in 10 years ago. Actually, it was really good fun. They used to have these electronic kits, and we'd have a really good time. And it was so easy to play because it was like you'd just be tapping the bass and the snare would go, But when and you were just tapping. But when
Mm,
you sat down on the real drum kit, you have to produce a sound. It was always a bit of a shock, because
completely different.
it was much more physical.
Sue Diakowska, and I reckon I've actually got her surname correct this time. Will there be any more 606 type gigs coming up?
I hope so. It'd be nice to do it. I don't know what the future holds with the pandemic, and we wanted to do some album launch gigs for this project. I've got like a band together, a bunch of musicians I'd like to work with. So we'll see what's possible. I mean, I saw a little clip from when we were playing down the six with Wally and Mike. I wish we could have done a few dates with that lineup. Like wish we could have, done gigs around the place. Got some promotion because it was such good fun to play with Wally and Mike like that. And
Mm,
Yolanda on bass and
yeah,
Fabio on guitar and
and
amazing.
Sophie.
Yeah, well, Sophie was a bit later. I think Yolanda did that gig, and then
Yeah,
Sophie did other gigs. But I'd
she
like,
came to Brighton, didn't she? Yeah.
yeah, I'd love Sophie to. I want Sophie to be in my band. Well, hopefully we'll be able to sort that out when the pandemic ends.
Excellent.